Hello and welcome to the Friday, February 4th, 2022 edition of On Iowa Politics. Support provided by New Pioneer Co-op, celebrating 50 years as Eastern Iowa's source for locally and responsibly sourced groceries, with stores in Iowa City, Coralville, and Cedar Rapids, and online through Co-op Cart at newpi.coop. Hi, I'm James Lynch of the Cedar Rapids Gazette. With me today are Tom Barton of the Quad City Times. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, James.
Amie Rivers of the Waterloo Cedar-Falls Courier. Good morning, Amie.
Good morning, James.
Erin Murphy, State House Bureau Chief for the Gazette. Good morning, Erin.
Good morning, James.
And Gazette Opinion Editor Todd Dorman. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
This week, no name plates, campaign fundraising, the only sure things, ethanol and tax cuts, and checking in on the kids. First up, Iowa legislators are considering bills that would end the practice of putting county names on license plates. I mean, how are we going to entertain the kids on road trips if we can't play license plate bingo?
I mean, that's a fair question.
Bills are advancing in the House and Senate. Auto dealers say it's part of streamlining the titling and registration process. The DOT says generic plates will make it easier to avoid supply chain issues, which I guess is the current excuse du jour for any problem. It must be Biden's fault that they don't have license plates where they need them. Todd, are legislators messing with something sacred to Iowans by removing county names from license plates?
Well, I have to admit I haven't been following the license plate issue closely, mostly because I don't like to tailgate people. I mean, I like to keep a little safe space. But, I guess I don't know how many states still have counties. I know like Georgia does. Five
states, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if Iowans care that much. I mean, it's kind of nice when you're out on the road and you see, someone from like you're by Iowa City and they're from Sioux County and you think to yourself, wow, they got a long drive. So, I mean, I guess there's that. But otherwise, I don't know what impact it would be. I'm sure that's not going to make the license plates cheaper or the licensing cheaper. It's probably going to stay the same. But, if they've got supply problems and this eases that, I suppose it's okay. Iowans aren't always big about change, so maybe there will be some people, that raise hell. But, you saw, and they do care about license plates. I mean, we saw when we had the sort of the voting on license plates that people disliked the one that was chosen so much that now they get, black plates that look cooler on their, big pickup trucks. So.
And they do not have county names on them.
They don't. That's right. That's what I was going to say. So you've seen kind of a surge in the purchase of those. So maybe that's an indication that people don't care.
Right.
Yeah, one of the legislators pointed out that there are like 62 specialty plates, and only about 3 of them, I think, require the county name. He said so. We're already moving that direction. But
yeah, they were on a clip for a few years there to add like a new plate every legislative session or maybe more. Yeah. It was it was the big license plate fad down at the State House.
That is
kind of like that. It's kind of like that Wordle.
Yeah.
How is it kind of like Wordle? I'm so curious.
Well, it's letters and.
It was popular.
And they were obsessed with it. So.
Tom, you're in one of Iowa's border communities. Does anyone care that the Illinois cars don't have county identification? And if we take the license plate or the county names off license plates, will you feel better slipping across the bridge to Illinois to buy some edibles?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't bother him either way.
No. I mean, like Todd said, I don't think anybody, really cares. And, as he mentioned, a lot more people are buying the black specialty plates that don't have the county name on them. So, yeah, I don't think anybody, really in our area cares a whole lot, except, hopefully it will make it a little bit easier to sleep on over to Illinois and, pick up some of those edibles.
But Amie, what about tradition?
What about tradition? We've had this plate since 1979. Before that, we actually had county codes. So your county had like a little number and they wrote the code on the plate. And actually they kept doing that even after they started putting the name of the county on there for a few years, and then finally got rid of that in the 90s. But yeah, I mean, we've had so many plates over the years, going all the way back to, you know, cars being invented, and yeah, it's just, it's fun. People collect them. So like having a plate go out of like existence will just like make this plate even more collectible. So hang on to them and eBay them, kids, because you'll be able to make some money in the future.
Good point. Good point. My license plate will become more valuable.
That's right.
It's interesting that part of the what's behind this is the electronic titling, and if you buy a car in Lynn County, you can get it titled in contiguous counties, I guess. So if I go over to Benton County, I would get a Benton County plate. But if I decide I want to have Lynn County on my plate, I can go to my county treasurer and pay $5. And apparently some people do that. A lobbyist for the Auto Dealers Association told a subcommittee, most people like the county names on their plates, but they don't want another county name on their plate. So if I live in Lynn County, I don't want a Benton County plate, because you know what people think about Benton County drivers. So
yeah, I was going to say that the only thing that it takes away from me is the ability to even more hone in on who I'm cursing.
Potawatomi.
Yeah, go back to Vinton. What are you doing here?
Well, the bills are alive and well in both chambers, so who knows? As soon as they get done lowering taxes, they may take on license plates.
Yes.
Meanwhile, candidates for federal office filed their year-end Federal Election Commission reports this week. And boy, are we in the wrong business. Erin, what, if anything, stood out in these reports from U.S. House and Senate candidates?
Yeah, especially the Senate race was one I was watching for, because obviously it shows to what degree those Democratic candidates are, I guess the open question after the statewide reports came out a few weeks back was, are they at least doing better than the candidates for governor? And the good news is for Democrats is that they are, although that was a low bar. But nothing terribly shocking. I mean, Abby Finkenauer is doing well. She raised right around $2 million since jumping in. And even though he didn't get in until a little later, so that merits noting here. But Michael Franken raised around $750,000, so he's lagging behind Abby Finkenauer, which is probably what we might have guessed given their respective histories. So it'll be interesting to see how that continues. Although Franken said that he had a really strong January, so we'll see how true that is in a couple months when he files his next report. Because that's still an interesting primary to me. I mean, I wouldn't argue that Abby Finkenauer is the favorite, but Michael Franken ran 2 years ago and did fairly well and finished second and turned enough heads that I'm interested to see how much traction he gets this time around. So, but at the end of the day, they're both lagging Senator Grassley, which again wouldn't surprise a whole lot of people either, given his time in office and fundraising connections. He's raised over $5 million through the cycle, so he's in a good starting position too. And the other thing about this in general is, depending on how competitive it looks, we'll see national, we'll see outside and some national spending on this race too. It won't just be the candidates putting their money on the line here. So noteworthy, but nothing shocking, I think, is the fastest way to say what I just prattled on about.
Do you think that when you look at the fundraising numbers for Grassley and Abby Finkenauer, can she turn fundraising, the mismatch, into sort of a David versus Goliath campaign theme?
She could if she wanted to. I haven't heard her do that yet, and maybe she eventually will. But it would fit pretty seamlessly into some of the other arguments she's making already about, Chuck Grassley's the poster child for. And I had to stop there because it was shocking for me to describe Chuck Grassley as any kind of a child. But
Yeah.
but portraying Chuck Grassley as the poster child for politicians who have been in DC forever, part of the establishment, et cetera, et cetera. So she's already kind of headed down that road in some ways. So she wanted to tack on to, hey, I'm the underdog here, trying to go against the well-connected forever senator and his deep pockets. I mean, that would fit pretty seamlessly into the way she's already started campaigning.
Todd, when you look at those numbers that the Democratic candidates raised, Finkenauer raising about $2 million last year, Franken, I think, around $750,000, and Glenn Hurst somewhere around $67,000. Is this primary over for all intents and purposes?
I don't think so. I mean, Finkenauer is obviously favored. I mean, she served a term in Congress, and it's well known in parts of eastern Iowa especially, and that fundraising is definitely an advantage. I think Franken's probably raised enough money to run a credible primary campaign. I mean, I think he's got enough to get out there and do some things, probably do some advertising. If he raises more money, in the first quarter of this year, then I mean that puts him in a better position. And his resume is always going to get people to at least think about him. I mean, consider him as a possibility, because we don't have a lot of admirals run for public office in Iowa. And he's from Northwest Iowa, which makes him sort of an interesting candidate to maybe some Democrats that think, we need someone that has, roots in kind of small town Iowa. And so, yeah, I think he's still a credible candidate. Finkenauer is favored. It'll be interesting to see if, like the past primaries, whether there are any like national Democratic groups that kind of step in and start endorsing her and fundraising for her. And I haven't seen any evidence of that yet, but that's always a possibility.
And how does the money race look in Northeast Iowa, Amie?
It's favoring Ashley Hinson right now over Liz Mathis, which is no surprise. Obviously, Hinson's the incumbent. Now, that's not to say Liz Mathis isn't doing well. I mean, she's raised almost a couple million. She's got a decent amount of cash on hand. Again, it's not as much cash on hand as Ashley Hinson has. So right now the race is still Hinson's to lose. And obviously, Hinson can point to a larger donor network again because she's in Congress right now. So it's a little bit of an uphill battle. I wouldn't say it's a Finkenauer Grassley uphill battle, but I think Mathis will still have her work cut out for her.
Mathis got some good news this week from the Cook Political Report. It shifted the race from solid Republican to likely Republican, and of course the Mathis campaign seized on that and said momentum is shifting here. So
yeah,
that was one of those press releases, and I don't mean to be, but it celebrates. Hey, it shifted the race in our direction, and then about 4 or 5 paragraphs later, notes from solid Republican to likely Republican. They saved that little detail to later. Bless them for at least putting it in there. I'll give them credit for that.
Well, I thought it was strange for them to sort of look at the landscape of the district in the first place and conclude it was solid R. I mean, it just doesn't. Right. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. So
same reaction. I thought the same thing, Todd.
But yeah, I mean, just think if it goes to Lean's R, what sort of press release will we get then? I mean, that's gonna be champagne popping at the. Well, and speaking of the fundraising, that's going to be the race, I think, of all of them that is going to draw in the most outside money, the most super PACs and nonprofit dark money, both sides probably. I mean, that's going to be because it's a big target. I mean, the Dems are trying to hold the House, and that's a chance to flip a seat, and that it's a district where you could possibly do that. So, and the Republicans are going to defend it, heavily. Yeah. So it's going to be our TVs and video streams, and it'll be full of warnings
place
about
will be safe.
warning about radical socialism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, radical Republicans and radical socialists. It'll be a radical election.
Trump.
In talking to Republican campaign operatives, they tell me that that race, I don't know if you want to call it the first district or second district or whatever, Northeast Iowa race is the only race that they see Democrats coming close to flipping this year. So I guess maybe Cook Political Report is picking up on those vibes, and we'll watch for the leans press release. Moving on to the only sure things in Iowa: ethanol and taxes. Two of Governor Kim Reynolds' priorities got a boost in the Iowa legislature this week. Her ethanol mandate was approved by the House 8210, much to the delight of the biofuel industry that wants to expand the market for E15. Convenience store owners were among those who opposed the bill, saying it will force higher costs on them with little hope of a return on investment. Amie, does that mean that my breakfast pizza is going to cost more?
Yes, I'm so sorry to tell you. Bring your own road snacks next time.
And a 16-year-old will be rolling the dole on that breakfast pizza.
True. Yes. Yeah.
I didn't realize that 16-year-olds couldn't roll dough, but it's good that we have those safety regulations, I guess. The bill is now in the Senate, where minority Democrats say will undergo significant changes. Erin, have we gotten any clues what those changes might be?
Not yet, and that will be really interesting. I had hoped to catch Senator Zumba, who's the chairman of the Ag Committee over there, but he was gone Thursday before I could. And as a reminder, it was also difficult too because we can't sit on the Senate floor and work. So just in case anybody had forgotten about that. So, but we have heard that from a couple different places. So it'll be interesting to see how that is received in the Senate. It was a big priority for the governor, and she wanted it moving early. House Republicans moved it. It was literally the first bill passed by either chamber this session. So House Republicans, upheld their end of any bargain they might have had with the governor, and so now it's on the Senate, who's been laser focused on their tax bill. They moved that out of committee, and I would assume we'll debate and vote on that on the floor next week. But now here's this ethanol bill, and are they going to accept it? Are they going to overhaul it? Which is what Senator Zach Walz told us. Democratic senator, I should note, Zach Walz told us he had heard was going to happen. I unfortunately at this point don't have any details beyond that, so it's going to be interesting next week to see what happens with that bill.
We heard a lot of love for those GOP House and Senate tax plans this week when they had subcommittee meetings that overlapped, which kept the lobbyists running back and forth around the Capitol. Yeah, they got their steps in.
Jeez.
But Erin, there were some suggestions on how to improve the tax relief. What more can they do?
Well, it depends on the perspective. So what you heard was interesting. The House doesn't have the corporate tax cuts or the environmental funding mechanism. And so folks in the House heard on both of those fronts from people saying, hey, you really should try out this in there too. So there's pushes for the House to more match the Senate bill, which is interesting because at the end of the day, the House and governor are more closely aligned on those tax bills, other than not having that corporate tax cut. So those are the two elements that it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Senate Republicans, when they passed theirs out of committee, they made pretty clear, Senator Dan Dawson, who's been leading that, made pretty clear that they feel strongly about a lot of the pieces of their bill and aren't ready to give up on them in negotiations when those start here. So it'll be interesting to see how far they want to dig their heels in on that corporate element, the I will funding, the phase out of the income tax is something that they have that others don't. So that'll be interesting negotiations that we'll be not be a part of and not have any access to, and we'll all find out together at some point in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, a couple of weeks.
Hey, Erin, I would assume now that the governor is lifting the public health emergency, that you guys will be brought back down to the floor of the Senate chamber, since that was a COVID related measure, we were told.
Yeah, by some. That's the other problem is the mixed messaging. Some said it was COVID, and others said it was defying the media. So I guess it depends on who you believe.
They'll figure out some argument again. So,
and quickly here, Erin, Democrats have offered their own tax plan, which probably won't get a subcommittee or committee action. But how drastically different is their plan from what Republicans are proposing?
I mean, pretty drastically. Obviously, what they say, and they're not going to introduce a bill. They're just going to fire them up as amendments when each chamber debates their bills on the Republicans bring their bills to the floor. Democrats have proposed doubling the earned income tax credit, which is beneficiary to low-income workers, and then the child care tax credit, which is obviously for families. They also said that they're going to propose reducing some rates around the middle income workers, but they haven't released the details of those yet. So everybody sit down for this, so you're ready for the surprise. But when I asked Republican Speaker Pat Grassley if they would entertain any of those, add them to their bills, he essentially said that no, we like what we have in ours, and we're going to stay focused on that. So
interesting.
So I'm sorry to shock you all with the report that the Republicans won't be accepting the Democratic amendment.
We're going to tack this right up on the fridge here so everyone can see it.
The argument that Democrats often make in these tax debates is, well, your tax plans only benefit the higher income workers, and Republicans can push back on that if they like. Well, I mean, if they push a tax plan that cuts the top rate in half, which theirs will do, from 8.5 to 4, but then reject an amendment to provide more tax relief to lower income workers, then that argument has a lot of merit to it. Will that matter to anyone outside the Capitol? I don't know, but that argument will hold more weight if that proceeds as we would expect it will.
I think the best line I heard this week was talking to Lee Hine, the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. I was talking to him about the tax plan, and this was early in the week when the temperatures were at least human. And he said, we're getting pretty close to adjournment because the temperature's warming up and we're talking about taxes.
So he's the one to blame for it dropping back below zero again the next day after he jinxed us?
I don't know, but I don't think we're close to adjournment anymore.
Yeah.
And finally, from the same folks who said remote schools shortchanged Iowa kids, comes a proposal to live stream every class every day to, quote, to showcase the great work our teachers do and continue the parent involvement that has begun since COVID. Representative Norland Momsen proposed installing cameras in every classroom to provide parents with the ability to access live footage of the camera connected to the classroom. I don't know about anyone else, but I got enough of that when I was in school that I really don't want to spend my days watching other people going to school. Todd, Erin, you have kids in school. Is this going to change your daytime schedule so you can watch class all day?
Probably not. I mean, considering that, when my daughter gets home from school, most days I ask her what happened and she says not much. So I don't know if I need to sit there and watch not much all day. We all know what this is about. This is all about the line that, the sinister agenda of educators and all these things. So now we can watch a live stream of them to make sure they're teaching both sides of slavery or whatever is the thing that they're supposed to do. This would be okay with me if they would take a sense amendment that would also require lawmakers to wear body cameras that we could watch all day long as they meet with lobbyists and in their negotiations and all those things. Now, I think that would be a lot more interesting viewing, and it would showcase the great work being done by our state legislators. So maybe they can work on that too, and just kind of a camera omnibus bill of some sort.
I gotta say, I'm a little concerned about how this would work with another bill they're working on about obscene materials and whether these videos could be considered obscene. Because according to the testimony of someone who came to a gentleman from the public who came to testify on one of the bills this week, apparently there are kids masturbating in public education classrooms all across the state. So if you're going to have a camera showing this, I mean, that to me is obscene material. And now we've got two laws crossing together. So I'm very concerned about how those will work.
Well, yeah, that was my question. Is this going to be like Facebook Live, so I can, be commenting on it as, correcting the teacher's mistakes and narking on the kids that are sleeping? I mean, if you really want parental involvement, and this would also help with, because they have a shortage of paraeducators and classroom aides and people like that. So, this, I guess it has a workforce component to it, which is the key this year to getting anything done. In fact, Representative Mike Sexton has offered his daylight saving time bill again for about the fourth time. And I asked him, I said, can you make this a workforce issue, that if we have daylight saving time year round, more people will come to Iowa and want to live here and work here. He seemed to think that was a stretch, but you got to think big. You got to think big. The other thing that strikes me is the camera in the classroom is coming from a guy who is worried about somebody filming what goes on at his farm and wants laws to protect him from somebody surreptitiously, I can't even say that, but secretly filming what he's doing at his farm. So I think
cameras for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Cameras in the combine, to showcase the great work of our farmers and to build that farm to table connection between Iowans that produce our food and those of us who eat the food. Be lots of amendments on that bill, I think. And we would be amiss if we didn't mention that the Olympics are beginning today. They're underway. The U.S. is conducting a diplomatic boycott by not sending officials to China. Some people have called for the games to be canceled, and if not, U.S. athletes shouldn't compete. What about armchair athletes? Should we boycott watching the Olympics? I think I'm going to boycott watching curling and biathlon and Nordic combined. Anybody else doing a watching?
Which one's the boycott? Nordic combined? What's that one?
Isn't that the one where they do cross country ski? Yeah, and fire rifles at targets.
The biathlon.
That's biathlon. The combined is, I think, involves cross country skiing too.
Yeah, you're right. That one's kind of just a workout. Yeah.
So.
Well,
all right.
I'm only there for the ice dancing, so that's my thing. And
there's
hockey.
An Iowan
and
ice
hockey.
skater, so we can cheer for the Iowan ice skater. Yes.
Yeah. So, hockey and ice dancing, which I've always thought should be combined into one sport, which would be really interesting. Yeah, right. See.
Well, that's it for this edition of On Iowa Politics. If you enjoy the podcast, tell your friends and subscribe to us wherever you find your podcast. Stay up to date on the Iowa Legislature by subscribing to the Capitol Digest newsletter under the Iowa Legislature tab at thegazette.com. Fan mail may be sent to podcast@thegazette.com. Don't forget, the work of everyone you heard here today can be found on the pages and websites of the Quad City Times, Waterloo Cedar-Falls Courier, Sioux City Journal, Mason City Globe Gazette, Muscatine Journal, Council Bluffs Daily Nonpareil, and the Cedar Rapids Gazette. New Trick will take us out. If you know an Iowa band or musician should be on our show, send us a sound file and subscribe to On Iowa Politics. For Amie, Erin, Todd, Tom, and our producer Stephen, I'm James Lynch. Thanks for listening. Be well.
She doesn't own a dress. Her hair is always a mess. If she catches stealing, she won't confess. She thinks that I'm beautiful. She smokes a pack a day. No, wait, that's me. But anyway, she don't care a thing about that. Hey, she thinks that I'm beautiful. Meet Virginia. She never compromises. She loves babies and surprises. Wear high heels when she exercises. Ain't that beautiful? Meet Virginia. I can't wait to meet Virginia. Well, she wants to live her life when she thinks about her life. She pulls her hair back as she screams, I don't really want to live this whole life. Daddy wrestles alligators, Mama works on carburetors, brother is a fine meteor for the president. Well, here she is again on the phone, just like we to be alone. We just like to sit at home and rip on the president. Meet Virginia. I can't wait to meet Virginia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, she wants to be the queen when she thinks about her scene. Pulls her hair back as she screams, I don't really want to live this whole life. Oh, she only drinks coffee at midnight when the moment is not right, and her timing is quite unusual. You see, her confidence is tragic, and her intuition magic. The shape of her body, unusual. Meet Virginia. I can't wait to meet Virginia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, she wants to live her life when she thinks about her life. Pulls her hair back as she screams, I don't really want to live this whole life. Oh,
Get a daily update from the Gazette with our daily news podcast. Add it to your podcast player or your Alexa-friendly device to get a bite-sized local news update each day. Check it out at thegazette.com/podcasts.